The Great Hall of the Galactic Council had never seen such chaos. 12 different alien species shouted, clicked, and buzzed at each other in anger. The noise was so loud that the translation devices could barely keep up. At the center of it, all sat 3 humans looking very calm while the galaxy's most powerful beings lost their minds. Ambassador Kethra of the Vortani slammed her 6 arms on the metal table. Her purple skin turned dark with rage. "This is impossible," she screamed. "No one can live on Korath 7, no one." The other council members agreed with loud voices. The tall, thin Zephyrians hissed through their breathing holes. The rock-like granite lords made deep, rumbling sounds. Even the peaceful Lumini, who looked like floating balls of light, flickered with anger. Dr. Kim Tae-ho sat quietly in his chair. He was a small man with kind eyes behind thick glasses. Next to him, Captain Lee Da-eun stood tall in her blue Earth Navy uniform. Her face showed no fear, even though they were surrounded by beings who could destroy their entire planet with a single order. "Please let me explain," Dr. Kim said in a soft voice. "Explain what?" shouted General Thexmore of the Draconian Empire. His red scales glowed with heat. "Explain how your weak little species did something that killed our strongest warriors?" Captain Lee stepped forward. "We didn't do anything special. We just built a home." The hall erupted in angry sounds again. The insect-like Mantari clicked their sharp teeth. The Helix Collective's robot spoke in a cold voice. "Error, error. Survival impossible on classification Death World Korath 7. High Counselor Veltar, an ancient being who looked like a giant tree, raised his wooden arms for silence. His voice was old and tired. "Humans of Earth, do you understand what you claim? Korath 7 has killed more beings than any war in galaxy history. The air burns flesh. The ground shakes without stop. The plants spray poison. Even our machines die there in hours." Dr. Kim nodded. "Yes, we know all of this." "Then how?" asked Dr. Vixtel, the lead Mantari scientist. Her large black eyes stared at the humans. "How do 50,000 of your people live where millions of ours have died?" Captain Lee touched a button on her wrist device. A large blue screen appeared in the air above the table. The image showed a city. But not just any city. A beautiful, clean city with green parks and happy people walking in the streets. The alien council members fell silent. They stared at the impossible sight. "This is New Busan Colony," Captain Lee said. "Our home on Korath 7. The image changed. Now it showed human children playing in a park. They were laughing and running while a light rain fell on them. To the aliens watching, this was like seeing children play in liquid fire. "The rain," whispered Ambassador Kethra. "That rain is acid. It should be burning their skin off." "It's not that bad once you get used to it," Dr. Kim said with a small smile. The next image showed humans working in fields. They wore simple clothes and hats. No environmental suits, no breathing masks. They were farming in soil that every scanner in the galaxy marked as deadly poison. General Thexmore's voice shook with disbelief. "Our greatest scientists said this world could never support life. Our best technology failed in days. How do your farmers work there with just hats and clothes?" "Good hats," Captain Lee said simply. The final image showed the city at night. Lights glowed warmly in windows. Families sat together for dinner. Old people walked slowly through peaceful streets. It looked like any normal human city except for one thing. The sky above glowed with deadly radiation that should have killed every living thing. "This is fake," said Commander Ralthek of the Zephyrian fleet. "It must be fake. You are trying to trick us." Dr. Kim shook his head. "We would never lie to the Galactic Council. These images are real. Our colony is real. Our people are happy and healthy." High Counselor Veltar's ancient voice filled the hall. "The Zephyrian Empire lost. 3,000 ships trying to land on Korath 7. The Granite Lords sent their strongest warriors. They never came back. Even the Helix Collective's perfect machines were destroyed. How do weak humans succeed where we all failed?" "Maybe we're not as weak as you think," said Captain Lee. This made the aliens angry again. General Thexmore stood, up to his full height of 10 feet. His claws came out. Humans have no great technology. Your weapons are simple. Your ships are slow. You only just learned to travel between stars. That's true, Dr. Kim agreed. We are very new to space, but we've been surviving impossible things for a very long time. Dr. Vixtel clicked her teeth in thought. What do you mean? On Earth, we lived through ice ages that should have killed us. We survived diseases that killed most of our people. We built cities in deserts and on frozen islands. We learned to fly even though we have no wings. We learned to swim even though we're not fish. Humans are very good at living in places that don't want us there. The hall grew quiet as the aliens thought about this. Ambassador Kethra spoke slowly. But Korath-7 is different. It's not just difficult, it's impossible. The very atoms of that world are wrong for life. That's what makes it interesting, said Captain Lee. Interesting, squeaked a small trader guild representative. It killed my uncle, and my uncle's whole trading fleet. We're sorry for your loss, Dr. Kim said gently. But death and life are often very close together. Sometimes the most dangerous place can become the safest home, if you understand it right. High Counselor Veltar leaned forward on his wooden throne. You speak in riddles, human. If your colony is real, prove it. Captain Lee smiled for the first time. We'd be happy to. We invite the Galactic Council to visit our home. Come see New Busan Colony for yourselves. Meet our people, eat our food, walk in our parks. The aliens looked at each other with shock. No one had ever invited the entire Galactic Council to visit a death world before. You want us to land on Korath-7? Asked General Thexmore. That's suicide. No, said Dr. Kim. That's Tuesday. We do it every week when the supply ships come. Ambassador, Kethra's purple skin turned almost white. Supply ships? You have regular supply ships going to Korath-7? Of course, how else would we get mail from home? The Great Hall fell into complete silence. The idea that humans treated the galaxy's most dangerous world like a normal place to get mail was too much for the alien minds to handle. Finally, High Counselor Veltar spoke. If we accept this invitation and your colony is real, it will change everything we know about survival in this galaxy. Yes, said Captain Lee, it probably will. And if you're lying, or if this is some trick, the consequences will be severe. Doctor, Kim nodded seriously. We understand, but we're not lying. Come see for yourselves. Come see what humans can do when they really try. The vote was close, but in the end, curiosity won over fear. The Galactic Council would send a joint investigation team to Korath-7. They would see this impossible human colony with their own eyes. As the session ended and the aliens filed out, still talking in shocked voices, Dr. Kim and Captain Lee remained behind. Do you think they'll believe it when they see it? Asked Captain Lee. Dr. Kim cleaned his glasses and smiled. They'll have to. Reality has a way of being very convincing. Even when reality seems impossible, especially then. 3 weeks later, the biggest investigation fleet in galactic history approached Korath-7. The massive ship Unity's Dawn led 12 other vessels through space. Inside were the most important beings from every major species in the galaxy. Dr. Vixtel pressed her face against the viewing window. The Mantari scientist had studied death worlds for 50 years, but she had never seen anything like this. The radiation readings are off the charts, she said to her assistant. How is anything alive down there? Next to her, bright song of truth flickered with nervous light. The Lumini being had never felt fear before, but something about this world made her energy patterns shake. The atmospheric composition is wrong, she sang in her musical voice. Everything is wrong. Admiral Thexmore stood at the ship's command center, his red scales dark with worry. He had fought in wars across the galaxy, but he was scared of a planet. Begin descent, he ordered, but keep the emergency jump engines ready. As the fleet entered Korath-7's atmosphere, every alarm on every ship began to scream. The air outside was so toxic that it burned through metal. Lightning struck their shields every few seconds. The gravity was so strong that even the aliens, Powerful bodies felt heavy. "Sir," called a young Zephyrian officer, "the atmospheric acid is eating through our outer hull. We're losing protective layers fast." "How long until we're in danger?" asked Admiral Thexmore. "At this rate, maybe 6 hours before the acid breaks through." The Admiral looked grim. His people had tried to land here 800 years ago. None of them had survived even 1 hour. But then something impossible appeared on their screens. Through the acid rain and lightning, they saw lights. City lights. Thousands of them spread across the land below. "That's impossible," whispered Commander Ralthek. "Nothing can make light in this environment. The radiation should destroy all electronics." Dr. Vixtel checked her instruments 3 times. "The readings are correct. There's a city down there, a big city." As they got closer, they could see more details. Roads with vehicles driving on them, buildings with people inside, parks with trees and grass, children playing in schoolyards while acid rain fell around them. "They're not wearing protection suits," said Bright Song of Truth in amazement. "They're walking around in the open air." Admiral Thexmore shook his head. "This must be some kind of trick. Advanced hologram technology. The humans are making us see things that aren't real." But the scanners told a different story. Life signs everywhere. Real life. Healthy life. The fleet landed at a spaceport just outside New Busan Colony. The moment they touched down, maintenance crews ran out to meet them. Human maintenance crews wearing nothing but simple work clothes and rain hats. "Welcome to Korath 7, called out a cheerful human woman. She walked right up to their ship while acid rain fell on her shoulders. "I'm Engineer Choi Minho. Sorry about the weather today, it's a bit wet." The aliens stared through their windows in shock. The bit wet was acid rain that could dissolve their ship's hull in hours. "Put on your environmental suits," Admiral Thexmore ordered his crew. "Full protection, check them twice." It took 30 minutes for the alien delegation to put on all their protective gear. They wore the best survival suits their technology could make. When they finally stepped outside, they looked like walking tanks covered in sensors and shields. Engineer Choi greeted them with a big smile. She wore blue work pants and a yellow rain jacket. That was all. "How are you not dead?" asked Dr. Vixtel through her suit's speaker. "Dead?" Choi looked confused. "Why would I be dead? It's just Tuesday." She led them toward the city while talking about the weather like it was normal. "The acid rain is lighter today than usual. Yesterday was really heavy. Good for the plants, though. They love this stuff." The aliens walked very carefully, their suits beeping with danger warnings every step. Choi walked beside them like she was taking a pleasant stroll in a park. As they entered New Busan Colony, the impossible sights grew stronger. Human children ran past them, laughing and playing in puddles of acid rain. Old people sat on benches reading books while deadly radiation poured down from the sky. Teenagers rode bicycles through streets that should have killed them instantly. "This is a nightmare," muttered Admiral Thexmore. "This is home," said a new voice. A man in simple clothes approached them. "I'm Park Jin-woo, Colony Administrator. Welcome to our city." Park looked like any normal human. He was middle-aged with kind eyes and graying hair. He could have been someone's father or uncle, but he was standing in an environment that had killed the galaxy's greatest warriors. "How?" was all Dr. Vixtel could say. "How what?" asked Park. "How are you alive? How is any of this possible?" Park thought about this for a moment. "Well, it wasn't easy at first. The first month was pretty rough. We lost some equipment and had to rebuild a few buildings, but you learn to work with what you have." "Work with what you have?" Commander Ralthek's voice shook with disbelief. "This world is pure death." "No," said Park gently. "This world is just different. Once you understand it, it's actually quite nice." He led them through the city center. They passed markets where humans sold fresh food grown in toxic soil. They saw schools where children learned math while sitting in chairs that should have dissolved. They watched doctors treat patients in hospitals that existed in impossible conditions. "The secret," explained Engineer Choi as they walked, "is not fighting the environment. We work with it instead." "Work with it how?" asked Bright Song of Truth. Choi pointed to a building. See that wall? It's made from local stone mixed with processed acid rain. The rain makes it stronger, not weaker. She showed them a power plant. We don't fight the lightning. We catch it and use it for electricity. She led them to a farm. The radiation that kills other plants makes our food more nutritious. Our vegetables have vitamins that don't exist anywhere else in the galaxy. Dr. Vixtel's scientific mind struggled to accept what she was seeing. But the toxins in the air, we breathe them every day, said a young human woman who joined their group. I'm Dr. Yoon Hae-jin, colony medical officer. The toxins were dangerous at first, but our bodies adapted. Now they actually help protect us from diseases. Adapted? Squeaked a small Trader Guild representative. Living beings don't adapt that fast. Dr. Yoon smiled. Humans do. We're very good at changing to fit new places. They visited a school where a teacher named Nam Dong-hyun showed them children's homework. The kids were studying the chemical properties of acid rain and the best ways to use lightning for power. On most worlds, explained Teacher Nam, children learn to avoid dangerous things. Here, our children learn to understand dangerous things. Understanding makes them safe. A little human girl, maybe 7 years old, ran up to Dr. Vixtel. Want to see my pet? She asked excitedly. Before anyone could stop her, she held up a plant that made the alien scanners scream danger warnings. It was one of the toxic plants that produced deadly neurotoxins. Get away from that, shouted Admiral Thexmore. The little girl looked confused. Why? It's just a flower. Look, isn't it pretty? She petted the plant like it was a harmless cat. The plant seemed to like her attention and opened its colorful petals. Dr. Yoon laughed at the aliens' terrified faces. The plants only make toxins when they're scared or angry. If you're gentle with them, they're perfectly safe. As the day went on, the aliens saw more impossible things. Humans swimming in pools filled with water that their scanners said was poison. Human musicians playing concerts in parks while radiation that should have killed them fell like snow. But the most shocking thing was how normal it all seemed to the humans. They weren't struggling to survive. They weren't fighting against their environment. They were living comfortable, happy lives in a place that should not allow life to exist. That evening, Administrator Park invited the delegation to dinner at his home. His wife served them tea and cookies while their children did homework at the kitchen table. This is impossible, said Admiral Thexmore quietly. Everything about this is impossible. Park's daughter, a girl about 10 years old, looked up from her math problems. What's impossible, mister? You living here, all of you living here. The girl thought about this seriously. Why is it impossible? We just live here, it's our home. But this world kills everything that tries to live here. Not everything, said the girl with a smile. It doesn't kill us. Later that night, as the aliens sat in their heavily protected quarters aboard their ship, they tried to make sense of what they had seen. They're not using advanced technology, said Dr. Vixtel. Their tools are simpler than ours. They're not stronger than us, physically, added Commander Reltic. They don't have special powers or genetic modifications, noted Bright Song of Truth. Admiral Thexmore stared out at the city lights glowing in the deadly night. Then how? None of them had an answer. But they all knew they had witnessed something that would change the galaxy forever. 1 year later, Korath 7 looked very different from space. The world that had once been called the graveyard of civilizations now sparkled with lights from dozens of cities. New Busan Colony had grown from 50,000 humans to over 200,000 beings from 47 different species. The impossible had become possible, and possible had become normal. Dr. Vixtel walked through the colony's new Adaptation Research Center. Her office had a perfect view of the Central Park, where human children played alongside young Mantari, Zephyrian hatchlings, and even small Granite Lord cubs. Status report, she said to her assistant, a cheerful human woman named Jung So-young. The Mantari adaptation program is ahead of schedule, Jung reported. They've successfully colonized 3 high-radiation worlds using human techniques. The Zephyrians have established their first colony on a magnetic field world, and the Crystal Collective just sent a thank you gift for helping them solve their gravity problem. Dr. Vixtel shook her head in amazement. A year ago, these achievements would have been impossible. Now they were Tuesday's accomplishments. What about the new arrivals? The Draconian delegation just landed. Admiral Thexmore is leading them personally, and the energy beings from the Void Sector are sending representatives next week. The Void Sector? Dr. Vixtel was surprised. But they live in pure space. They don't even have physical bodies. Apparently, they want to learn human problem-solving methods for dealing with black holes. Dr. Vixtel laughed. 6 months ago, the idea of teaching energy beings how to handle black holes would have seemed insane. Now it was just another research project. She walked outside into the acid rain, no longer wearing any protective gear. Her Mantari body had adapted to Korath 7's environment using techniques learned from humans. The process had taken months of careful work, but now she was as comfortable here as any human. The rain felt refreshing on her modified skin. Around her, the impossible city bustled with impossible life. A Zephyrian engineer named Koltek flew overhead. His natural wings adapted to work in the thick, toxic atmosphere. He waved at Dr. Vixtel as he headed to the lightning collection facility where he worked with human engineers to improve the power systems. A group of young granite lords rolled past, their rock-like bodies now able to process the minerals in Korath 7's soil for nutrition instead of poison. They were laughing at something on their data pads, probably videos from their homeworld showing their families how well they were doing. Even more amazing were the Crystal Collective members. These delicate beings had seemed the least likely to survive on a death world. But human ingenuity had found a way. Their crystal bodies were now protected by bio-organic shells grown from local plants. They looked like beautiful living jewels walking through the streets. Dr. Vixtel, called a familiar voice. Park Jin-woo approached with his usual warm smile. As the colony's administrator, he had become something of a celebrity across the galaxy. But he still acted like the same humble man who had first welcomed alien visitors to his impossible home. "How are the new programs going?" he asked. "Better than we ever hoped. The Draconians want to apply human methods to colonizing solar proximity worlds so close to stars that they're basically balls of fire." Park nodded thoughtfully. "Fire worlds, huh? That'll be interesting. The heat management techniques should be similar to what we use for the lightning, but on a much bigger scale." This was what amazed Dr. Vixtel most about humans. Park wasn't a scientist or an engineer. He was just a colony administrator. But he could hear about colonizing worlds made of fire and immediately start thinking about practical solutions. "Has anyone tried to live on a fire world before?" she asked. "Not that I know of, but somebody has to be first, right?" They walked together toward the new construction area, where humans and aliens worked side by side to build the galaxy's first multi-species adaptation training center. It would be the place where beings from across the galaxy came to learn the human way of thinking about impossible problems. "Park," Dr. Vixtel said, "can I ask you something?" "Of course. Do you ever think about what you've done? What humans have done? You've changed how the entire galaxy thinks about survival." Park stopped walking and looked around at the busy streets filled with dozens of different species. No, I don't think we changed anything. We just showed everyone that the galaxy was bigger than they thought it was." "What do you mean?" "People thought there were places where life couldn't exist, but life always finds a way, if you give it a chance. We just helped give it that chance." They reached the training center where a class was in session. Through the windows, they could see Dr. Kim Tae-ho teaching a mixed group of alien scientists and engineers. Today's lesson was about adaptive problem-solving in hostile environments. The key, Dr. Kim was saying, is not to think about why something can't work. Think about what would need to change to make it work. A young Draconian student raised his clawed hand. "But Professor Kim, what if the changes needed are impossible?" Dr. Kim smiled the same gentle smile he'd worn in the Galactic Council chamber a year ago. "Then you figure out how to make impossible things possible. That's what humans do best." "But how do you learn to do that?" Practice. Lots of practice. And lots of failing. Humans fail at things more than any other species I know. That doesn't sound good. Oh, but it is good. Every time we fail, we learn something new. Every time we learn something new, we get better at solving problems. The more impossible problems you try to solve, the better you get at solving impossible problems. Dr. Vixatel and Park listened for a while, then continued their walk. They ended up at the colony's memorial wall, where the names of all the beings who had died trying to colonize Korath 7 were written in letters of gold. We remember them, Park said quietly. The Zephyrians who died 800 years ago, the Granite Lords who tried 5 centuries back, the Crystal Collective explorers who lasted only 3 days. They weren't failures. They were teachers. Teachers? They taught us what didn't work. That's just as valuable as learning what does work. As the day ended, the two friends stood watching the sunset through Korath 7's toxic atmosphere. The light was beautiful, filtered through chemicals that would have killed most life forms, creating colors that existed nowhere else in the galaxy. "What's next?" asked Dr. Vixtel. "The Helix Collective wants help with a mechanical world where the gravity changes every few minutes. The Void Dwellers are serious about that black hole project, and there's a new request from the Far Rim. Apparently there's a world made entirely of living crystal that eats spaceships." "A world that eats spaceships? Sounds like fun, doesn't it?" Dr. Vixtel laughed. A year ago, the idea of a planet that ate spaceships would have terrified her. Now it just sounded like an interesting puzzle to solve. That evening, the colony held its weekly celebration in the Central Park. Humans and aliens shared food, music, and stories under the glow of lightning-eating plants and radiation-powered lamps. Captain Lee Da-Yoon, now Admiral Lee and commander of the Multi-Species Environmental Corps, gave a short speech. "A year ago, most of the galaxy thought there were limits to where life could exist. Today, we know there are no limits. There are only challenges we haven't figured out yet." She gestured to the crowd of humans and aliens celebrating together. "Every being here represents a victory over the impossible. Every friendship between species represents a bridge over the gaps that used to divide us. What we've learned here on Korath 7 isn't just about surviving in hostile environments. It's about working together to make the impossible possible. It's about never giving up when others say something can't be done." The crowd cheered, humans clapping, Mantari clicking their teeth, Zephyrians whistling through their breathing holes, and Granite Lords making their rumbling approval sounds. As the celebration continued into the night, teacher Nam Dong-hyun sat with a group of children from a dozen different species. They were looking up at the stars through the toxic atmosphere, planning which impossible world they wanted to visit when they grew up. "Teacher Nam," asked a young Mentari, "are there really no limits to what we can do?" Nam thought about this carefully. "There are limits to what we can do today, but every day we learn new things. Every day we get a little bit better at solving problems. So the limits of today might not be the limits of tomorrow. So someday we could do anything. Someday we might be able to do anything that's worth doing." High above them, the stars twinkled with promise. Somewhere out there were worlds of ice and fire, worlds of crushing gravity and impossible chemistry, worlds that every species had declared too dangerous or too strange for life. But now the galaxy knew something it had never known before. Impossible was just another word for not yet, and humans working together with their new friends from across the galaxy were very good at turning not yet into let's try. The age of impossible worlds was over. The age of adventure had begun. News. A massive electromagnetic storm was heading straight for New Busan Colony, the kind of storm that had destroyed entire fleets trying to land on Korath 7. Admiral Thexmore burst into Administrator Park's office. "You have to evacuate the Mu city. This storm will kill everyone." Park looked up from his morning coffee and checked his weather display. "Oh, that's a big one. Category 7. We haven't seen one this strong in months." "Months?" Dr. Vixtel's voice cracked with fear. "How do you survive these storms?" "Same way we survive everything else here," said Park with a shrug. "We work with them." The alien delegation watched their instruments in horror The storm covered half the continent. Lightning bolts as thick as buildings split the sky. Electromagnetic waves strong enough to fry every computer in their fleet rolled across the land like ocean waves. "Our ships won't survive this," said Commander Ralthek. "We need to leave orbit immediately." "Don't worry about your ships," said Engineer Choi, who had joined them in the office. "We'll take care of them." "Take care of them how?" "Same way we take care of ours." Before the aliens could ask what that meant, human work crews swarmed over their vessels. The crews carried strange-looking equipment and worked with incredible speed. "What are they doing to our ships?" Admiral Thexmore demanded. "Installing storm shields," explained Choi. "They're made from local materials. The same stuff the storm throws at us we use to protect ourselves from it." Young mechanic Han Soo-jin climbed down from the Admiral's flagship, wiping her hands on a cloth. "All done. Your ships should be fine now." "That's impossible," said the ship's computer through a speaker. "The electromagnetic readings show this. Storm will destroy all electronic systems." "Not anymore," said Han with a smile. "We rerouted your power systems to work like ours do. The storm won't hurt them now." As the storm approached, the aliens prepared for the worst. They put on their strongest protective suits and locked themselves in the most secure parts of their ships. They said prayers in a dozen different languages and prepared to die. The humans, meanwhile, went about their normal day. Children walked to school carrying colorful umbrellas. Workers headed to their jobs with lunch boxes. Old people sat in parks feeding birds that shouldn't have been able to exist in this world. "They're all going to die," whispered Bright Song of Truth. "Don't they understand what's coming?" Through their ship's windows, the aliens watched the storm hit the city. Lightning struck the ground every few seconds. Electromagnetic waves made their instruments scream warnings. The wind howled loud enough to shake their reinforced ship. But something incredible happened. Instead of destroying the city, the storm seemed to make it stronger. Lightning struck tall metal rods placed all around New Busan, but instead of destroying buildings, the lightning was caught and channeled into huge batteries. The city's lights grew brighter as the storm fed them more power. The electromagnetic waves that should have fried every computer were absorbed by strange metal nets stretched between buildings. These nets glowed with captured energy and sent it to power plants throughout the colony. Even the acid rain became useful. Special collectors on every rooftop gathered the falling water and sent it to processing plants where it was turned into fuel and building materials. "They're not just surviving the storm," said Dr. Vixtel in amazement. "They're using it." Administrator Park's voice came over their ship's radio. "How are you folks doing up there? The storm's putting on quite a show today." "You're in the middle of a Category 7 electromagnetic storm," shouted Admiral Thexmore. "How are you even able to talk to us?" "Oh, our communication systems are designed for this weather. We get storms like this pretty regularly." "Regularly?" "Every few weeks. They're actually quite useful. This one should give us enough power to last 2 months." Dr. Vixtel stared at her instruments. The readings made no sense. The storm that should have destroyed the city was actually making it more powerful. When the storm passed 6 hours later, the aliens carefully left their ships. They expected to find a ruined city and dead bodies. Instead, they found humans celebrating in the streets. "Best storm we've had all year," called out a happy human woman. "My flower garden got exactly the kind of lightning it needed." "Lightning that your garden needed?" asked Commander Raltic weakly. "Oh yes, these flowers only bloom after they've been struck by lightning. Now they'll be beautiful for months." The woman showed them her garden. The flowers were indeed gorgeous, glowing with soft light from the electrical energy they had absorbed. Han Soo-jin found the alien delegation and grinned at them. "Want to see how we really do things here? Follow me." She led them to the city's power plant. Inside, human workers moved between machines that hummed with captured storm energy. Everything was clean, organized, and running smoothly. "This plant was built using materials from the first storm that hit our colony," explained Han. "The lightning didn't destroy our equipment. It showed us how to build better equipment." She showed them pipes filled with processed acid rain. "This used to fall from the sky and kill plants. Now we turn it into fuel for our vehicles. She pointed to walls made from compressed toxic soil. The ground that poisoned other species makes the strongest building materials we've ever seen. But how do you know how to do all this? Asked Dr. Vixtel. Where did you learn these techniques? Han looked confused by the question. We didn't learn them anywhere. We figured them out. Figured them out how? By watching. By trying things. By failing and trying again. Han shrugged like it was the most obvious thing in the world. That's what humans do. They visited the colony's research center where Dr. Yoon Hye-jin showed them medical equipment made from local materials. The radiation that kills other species actually helps our medicine work better, she explained. We've cured diseases here that we couldn't cure on Earth. Teacher Nam Dong-hyun took them to the school's science lab. Human children were conducting experiments with materials that made the aliens' danger sensors go crazy. Isn't this dangerous? Asked Bright Song of Truth. Everything's dangerous if you don't understand it, said one of the children, a boy about 12 years old. But once you understand it, you can make it do what you want. The boy showed them a small plant that glowed with its own light. This plant eats radiation and turns it into light. We use them as reading lamps. On your homeworld, asked Dr. Vixtel, do children play with radioactive plants? The boy laughed. We don't have radioactive plants on Earth, but we do have lots of other dangerous things. Poisonous spiders, deadly snakes, plants that make you sick. Human kids learn about dangerous things so they can stay safe. But this world is more dangerous than anything on Earth. So we learn more, said the boy, simply. That evening, the aliens sat with Administrator Park and his family for dinner. Park's wife served food grown in toxic soil, cooked with acid rain, and seasoned with processed minerals that should have been deadly. It was the most delicious meal any of the aliens had ever eaten. I still don't understand, said Admiral Thexamore. Your technology isn't better than ours. Your people aren't stronger than ours. How do you succeed where we fail? Park thought about this while his daughter helped clear the dishes. Maybe it's because we don't think about succeeding or failing. We just think about living. What's the difference? When you try to succeed, you fight against problems. When you try to live, you work with problems. Park's wife brought them tea, made from plants that grew only in acid rain. Every world has problems, she said. Earth had ice ages and plagues and wars. We learned to live through all of them. But Earth's problems were nothing compared to this world's problems. No, said Park's daughter, who was doing homework at the table. Earth's problems taught us how to handle any world's problems. How? The little girl looked up from her math book. By not giving up. By trying new things. By helping each other. She smiled at the confused aliens. That's what humans do best. Late that night, as another small storm brought gentle lightning to the city, Dr. Vixtel made notes in her research journal. Observation Day 3, she wrote. Humans don't conquer hostile environments. They don't fight against impossible conditions. They adapt to them. They learn from them. They make them part of their lives. She paused and looked out at the city, lights glowing in the toxic night. They don't see problems, they see puzzles to solve. Admiral Thexamore found her writing and sat down beside her. This changes everything we know about survival. Yes, said Dr. Vixtel. It does. Outside, human children played in parks lit by lightning-eating plants while their parents worked night shifts powered by storm energy. The galaxy's most dangerous world had become humanity's most successful colony, and the aliens were finally beginning to understand why. The news spread across the galaxy faster than light itself. On every world and every space station, beings talked about only one thing. Humans had done the impossible. The Galactic Council chamber buzzed with excitement and fear. Representatives from hundreds of species had come to hear the investigation team's report. Some had traveled for weeks just to be here. Dr. Vixtel stood at the speaking platform, her black eyes scanning the massive crowd. In 50 years of science, she had never been so nervous. Honored delegates, she began. What we found on Korath 7 changes everything we thought we knew about survival. The hall fell silent. Even the air recyclers seemed to quiet down. Humans are not using secret technology, Dr. Vixtel continued. They are not stronger than us. They are not immune to the dangers of Korath-7. They simply approach problems differently than any species we have ever studied. Ambassador Kethra leaned forward in her seat. What do you mean differently? Where we see obstacles to overcome, humans see puzzles to solve. Where we see enemies to defeat, they see partners to work with. Where we see impossible conditions, they see new opportunities. Admiral Thexmore stepped up to join her. The proud draconian warrior looked confused and amazed. I have fought in wars across 3 galaxies, he said. I have seen the strongest warriors and the most advanced weapons. But I have never seen anything like what humans do on Korath-7. Explain, demanded General Korthak of the Granite Lords. They turn their greatest enemies into their greatest strengths. Lightning that should kill them powers their cities. Acid rain that should burn them fuels their vehicles. Radiation that should poison them makes their medicine stronger. Bright Song of Truth flickered with amazement as she spoke. Human children play with plants that produce deadly toxins. Human farmers grow food in soil that would kill our strongest warriors. Human doctors use radiation to heal people instead of harm them. The hall erupted in shocked voices. Delegates whispered to each other in dozens of languages. Some stood up and shouted questions. High Counselor Veltar raised his ancient wooden arms for silence. You are saying humans have no special technology? None, confirmed Dr. Vixtel. Their tools are simpler than ours. Their computers are slower. Their materials are weaker, but their thinking is completely different. Different how? Commander Raltek answered this time. They don't think like us. When we face a problem, we ask, how do we destroy this? Humans ask, how do we use this? Dr. Vixtel activated a holographic display. It showed images from New Ozon Colony. Look at their buildings. They don't resist the earthquakes on Korath-7. They bend with them. The buildings dance with the ground instead of fighting it. The next image showed human children in school. Look at their education. They don't teach children to avoid dangerous things. They teach them to understand dangerous things. More images appeared. Humans swimming in pools of liquid that would dissolve alien skin. Humans breathing air that would burn alien lungs. Humans growing gardens in soil that would poison alien roots. How is this possible? Asked Dr. Zelton of the Crystal Collective. Because humans have been doing impossible things for their entire history, explained Dr. Vixtel. On their homeworld, they survived ice ages that lasted thousands of years. They lived through diseases that killed most of their species. They built cities in deserts where nothing should grow. But other species have done these things too, argued Minister Kelnar of the Trading Federation. Not the way humans do it, said Admiral Thexmore. We survive difficult conditions by changing the conditions. Humans survive by changing themselves. What do you mean? When we colonize a desert world, we bring water from other planets. When humans colonize a desert world, they learn to live without much water. When we face a deadly disease, we make medicines to kill it. When humans face a deadly disease, they help their bodies learn to fight it. Bright Song of Truth sang softly. They adapt. They change. They grow. It's beautiful and terrifying. The hall buzzed with discussion. Species that had been enemies for centuries found themselves agreeing about one thing. Humans were unlike anything they had ever encountered. Dr. Seo Ki-wan, the human anthropologist, had been quiet during the presentation. Now she stood up to speak. Honorable delegates, you seem surprised by what humans can do. But to us, this is normal. This is how we have always lived. Always? Asked High Counselor Veltar. Yes. Humans spread across Earth by learning to live, in places that should have killed us. Frozen lands where nothing grows. Hot deserts with no water. Mountains where the air is too thin to breathe. Islands surrounded by deadly ocean storms. Dr. Seo continued. Every time we found a new place that seemed impossible to live in, some humans said, let's try anyway. Most of them died. But some figured out how to survive, and they taught others. So you're saying humans are naturally good at surviving impossible things? Asked Ambassador Kethra. We're naturally good at not giving up when things seem impossible. The impact of this statement hit the assembly like a shockwave. For thousands of years, galactic civilization had been built on the idea that some things were simply impossible. Some worlds could never be colonized. Some problems could never be solved. Some challenges could never be overcome. Humans had just proved that impossible might not exist. High Commander Thekral of the Military Alliance stood up. If humans can colonize death worlds, what else can they do? What other impossible things might be possible? That's exactly what we want to find out, said Dr. Seo with a smile. The questions came fast and urgent now. Every species wanted to know if humans could help them solve their impossible problems. The Zephyrians asked about colonizing worlds with extreme magnetic fields that destroyed their technology. The Granite Lords wanted to know about surviving in high radiation environments. The Crystal Collective wondered about adapting to gravity fields that crushed their delicate bodies. We can try, Dr. Seo said to each question. We won't promise success, but we can try. What do you want in exchange? Asked the ever-practical Trade Minister. Nothing, said Dr. Seo. The chance to help is enough, that's also very human. High Counselor Veltar's ancient voice filled the chamber. The Galactic Council has a decision to make. Do we accept that? Our understanding of survival has been limited. Do we admit that humans know something we don't? The debate lasted 6 hours. In the end, the vote was unanimous. For the first time in galactic history, an entire civilization would learn from a younger, smaller, seemingly weaker species. The Human Environmental Adaptation Research Initiative was born. New Busan Colony would become its headquarters. Human methods would be studied, taught, and adapted by species across the galaxy. As the delegates filed out, still talking excitedly, Dr. Vixtel approached Dr. Seo. You really think you can teach us to think like humans? Dr. Seo considered this carefully. We can teach you our methods, we can show you how we approach problems, but thinking like a human... She smiled. That might be the most impossible thing of all. Why? Because thinking like a human means believing that impossible things are just things nobody has figured out how to do yet. Dr. Vixtel stared at her. That's terrifying. Yes, agreed Dr. Seo. But it's also wonderful. Outside the council chamber, Captain Lee Da-eun waited with Dr. Kim Tae-ho. They had watched the entire session on video. Think it will work? Asked Captain Lee. Dr. Kim cleaned his glasses and smiled. Humans trying to teach the galaxy to think like humans? That's definitely impossible. So we'll probably succeed? Probably. They looked out the great windows at the stars beyond. Somewhere, out there were thousands of worlds that every species had declared impossible to colonize. Death worlds, poison worlds, worlds of fire and ice and crushing gravity. For the first time in galactic history, impossible no longer meant impossible. It just meant not yet.